Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into some fascinating source material that outlines a real modern-day David versus Goliath story. But, in this scenario, Goliath isn't some towering giant, and he doesn't sit in a corner office on the top floor. In fact, you can't see this boss at all. We're talking about the invisible, hyper-efficient, and mathematically cold world of artificial intelligence management. Right now, across the globe, there's this intense conflict brewing between human workers and the algorithms that dictate their every move. So we're going to unpack exactly how this conflict is taking shape, what it means for the future of work, and how people are actually fighting back.
Okay, so I want you to start by just asking yourself this. What happens when your boss is literally a machine? Imagine a workplace where your eye movements are constantly tracked, where every single second you're inactive is logged and scrutinized. A place where you could be automatically issued a warning or even fired without a single human being ever reviewing your case. It sounds a lot like a dystopian sci-fi movie, doesn't it? But according to the sources we're analyzing today, this is already the daily reality for millions of workers.
Section 1. The Invisible AI Boss.
To really grasp this resistance, we have to define what this machine boss actually is. Algorithmic management isn't just a digital timesheet or some basic tracking app. It's a comprehensive system that uses tracked data to organize, assign, monitor, supervise, and evaluate work. The machine itself is making the calls. Major corporations, we're talking Amazon, Walmart, Starbucks, Delta, they are leaning heavily on these AI-powered tools. They use them for everything from daily performance tracking and route optimization, all the way to monitoring employee communications to detect potential union organizing.
Looking at the research, there's an academic study out of Spain with some absolutely wild statistics. When we look at companies utilizing AI solutions, a massive 39% are using it for workflow automation or decision-making assistance, and over 30% are using it to identify objects or people via image and video. To put that into perspective, this isn't just an isolated trend in a few niche tech startups. This is a fundamental, widespread shift in how economic activities are managed across the board.
Section 2. Life under the algorithm.
We've seen the macro data, but looking at the actual human toll is pretty rough. Workers in Amazon warehouses literally report feeling like robots are treated better. Researchers looking into these workplaces actually have a term for it: algorithmic paranoia. Just imagine the psychological weight of knowing an AI camera is constantly analyzing your movements and that the algorithm might penalize you for things totally out of your control, like heavy traffic or delayed shipment on the factory floor. The constant, unpredictable nature of that monitoring leaves workers exhausted and incredibly stressed out.
To anchor this abstract concept, let's look at a very specific, frankly harrowing story detailed in the Sociological Review. Over in Dhaka, Bangladesh, an Uber driver accepted an inner-city trip. Well, unbeknownst to him, his passenger was carrying illegal drugs. The police stopped the car, searched it, and arrested the driver right alongside the passenger. Now, despite the fact that platform rules explicitly forbid drivers from searching passenger luggage, the platform provided zero support. The algorithm happily matched the ride and profited from the work, but when human reality hit, the system just vanished. It offered absolutely no safety net, leaving the driver to languish in jail.
And honestly, the financial reality is just as stark. On top of that complete lack of support, the algorithm can extract massive commission rates. In Dhaka, workers report the platform taking up to 35% of their fare in transaction fees. That is a huge cut. This opaque system leaves workers struggling to survive, paying high vehicle and maintenance costs completely at the mercy of a cold algorithm that can slash its payouts overnight without a single word of warning.
So, the crucial point is this. How do you negotiate with an algorithm? You can't knock on a machine's office door. You can't bring it a coffee and explain that your kid was sick or that a street was closed for construction. This total lack of a human interface really forces workers into a corner. But humans are incredibly resourceful, right? And this brings us to a major pivot in the story, shifting from exploitation to human agency, and the downright ingenious ways workers are fighting back.
Section 3. Hacking the system. Covert resistance. When formal negotiation is literally impossible, workers turn to what sociologists call infrapolitics. Basically, finding hidden loopholes within this algorithmic panopticon to claw back a little bit of control. Let's look at this brilliant street-level tactic used by drivers in Dhaka, known locally as the KEP practice. Here's how it works. The driver arrives and tells the customer to cancel the ride on the app. Then, they offer to drop the customer off for a slightly lower cash charge than the app originally quoted. Finally, they exchange numbers for future informal rides. By doing this, they completely subvert the algorithm, bypass that brutal 35% transaction fee, and reclaim total agency over their labor. It is this quiet, invisible rebellion against the code.
Another fascinating covert tactic revolves around physical safety. Because the platform algorithm doesn't protect drivers from police harassment or violent hijackers, the workers just built their own safety net. They use encrypted messaging apps like Telegram to share their live locations with each other in real time. If a driver faces danger, they send out a coded SOS. The nearest drivers then immediately converge on that spot to perform a rapid physical rescue operation. Without the company lifting a finger, they've literally crowdsourced the security that the algorithm refused to provide.
Section 4. Striking the algorithm. Overt resistance.
Now we're zooming out from the micro to the macro, and it's vital to contrast these two approaches. On one side, we have the quiet, covert infrapolitics, like the HEP practice and those Telegram SOS groups. On the other side, we have loud, overt collective action. Think massive union strikes, protests by the DACA, ride-sharing drivers union, strikes by the Writers Guild of America, Teamsters campaigns. These are public, direct confrontations. They aren't just looking for loopholes anymore, they are demanding formal recognition and systemic legal change to how algorithms govern labor.
And speaking of loud, public confrontations, just look at this number, 148. That's the number of days the Hollywood Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA went on strike back in 2023. This was an absolute watershed moment. For the first time on such a massive scale, protecting human creativity from being overrun by artificial intelligence wasn't just some footnote, it was a central, non-negotiable demand. And you know what? It worked. They successfully forced the studios to implement tangible, binding protections against AI.
And this solidarity is totally crossing borders. It's Amazon warehouse workers staging coordinated walkouts during the massive holiday rush to protest AI surveillance. It's gig workers all across India staging nationwide strikes against falling pay and opaque algorithms. And back in Bangladesh, it's the DRGU successfully protesting government restrictions, forcing authorities to let drivers use multiple apps, which creates much-needed competition against these platform monopolies.
Section 5. A new worker rulebook. Because of all these massive resistance efforts, we're actually beginning to see labor laws evolve. Formal, systemic pushback is finally being designed to balance that extreme power asymmetry between the machine boss and the human worker. Spain, for example, has really emerged as a legislative pioneer here. They established the Riders Law, directly targeting platform work and algorithmic management. Plus, the Spanish government approved a draft law for the good use of AI and even created a dedicated agency, ASIA, specifically designed to regulate and oversee how AI systems operate in the real world. Over in the US, we're seeing comprehensive legislative attempts, like the proposed Stop Spying Bosses Act in the Senate. This bill gets right to the heart of that algorithmic paranoia we talked about. It aims to outlaw workplace surveillance when it's used specifically for union busting. It prohibits using AI to make behavioral predictions about workers. And it strictly requires employers to fully disclose exactly what data is being collected and how the algorithm is using it. It's all about making sure your workplace doesn't turn into a surveillance state.
Really, all of this boils down to a proposed framework for new worker rights in the algorithmic age. The right to actually understand and challenge the AI managing you. The right to access your own data. The right for unions to collectively bargain before a brand new algorithm is deployed. And the right to total algorithmic transparency to ensure these systems are free from bias. The ultimate goal here is co-determination, meaning workers need to have a genuine, legally protected say in how algorithms shape their day-to-day lives.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply important question to consider. As AI completely transforms the nature of work, will human dignity be programmed out of existence, or will we rewrite the code? The humans striking the algorithm right now, from the streets of Dhaka to the warehouses of Amazon to the studios of Hollywood, well, they've made their answer pretty clear. The resistance has already begun. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer of the source material. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll see you next time.